Hey guys, it's Mathel here once again with the next new build and skill, and that is in the form of Molten Strike Zenith. Or Zenith Molten Strike, I don't remember. Either way, it's the new Molten Strike, which is actually surprisingly pretty damn good. The special thing about it is it forces you to use a two-handed weapon, but every 5 attacks it gives you like 1,000% more damage on your molten balls that it will shoot out and generate more balls as well. So it's a kind of similar thing to the glacial hammer I just did because of the every third attack thing, except in this case it's still doing lots of damage on its first few hits, but every fifth one is going to be an absolutely huge hit, and the only other difference is you don't have to connect with anything to generate that fifth hit. So you can walk up, hit the air 4 times, and then your fifth hit onto an enemy will be the Zenith proc, and it can do some pretty crazy damage. So all in all, the single target on this has actually been pretty impressive. I went with a sort of abyssal stacking standpoint as a Trickster. So I wanted to do a Trickster just because, you know, some extra thickness and stuff. Pretty general all-around character that can do lots of good stuff. And I wanted to stack abyssal jewels so that I can get good elemental penetration, and then at the same time a bunch of extra stuff from those jewels, and then also use the new minion hat, which is just, you know, something to do with specters, but it has 4 abyssal sockets. So we're not using the minion hat for anything related to minions, just using it for 4 abyssal sockets. In the end, I've got something like 11 abyssal jewels, which is 44 Ellie pen, a bunch of life, and then I'm using all of these abyssal jewels to have 4% fizz as fire when you crit. So it's another 40% or so. Depending if each of them have it, about 40% fizz as fire when we crit, and then we are using a fizz weapon base. So it's a bit of a different way to build a Trickster and a Molten Strike character, a 2-hand fizz variant, and it has generated decent enough DPS to so far clear the game pretty comfortably, do lots of Guardian stuff and, you know, some Mavens and all that, as you saw, pretty quickly and cleanly. Like, for example, here, when the Zenith procs come in, you can see it hits really hard. Like damn near 2-shotting a Minotaur there, stuff like that. So it's been pretty clean for that, but all that said, I'm pretty sure I built it entirely wrong, and it's not very worth doing it this way. The fizz scaling, it's decent. You do pretty much need a mirror tier weapon from your graveyard, which I don't currently have, to make it worthwhile, and even then, flat Ellie scaling is probably going to deliver you more damage in the long run and just be way easier to build. So this whole fizz conversion thing with the extra fizz from the abyssals and stuff, not particularly worthwhile. You can still do it this way if you so choose, but I would recommend that flat Ellie scaling, either through abyssal jewels still, which is totally fine, or the more popular way of doing this skill and build, Rakiatas. So with Rakiata's sword, you would just have a bunch of extra flat elemental damage. Don't care about penetration or any abyssal stuff like that. You still can do abyssal stuff if you want, but you don't have to do the Shroud of the Lightless for lots of penetration, because Rakiatas takes care of that altogether, and you'll have a build that has most likely a lot more damage, much easier to build, and then still have a pretty good functioning setup. All I can really say is, yeah, Molten Strike of Zenith is fairly freaking powerful and definitely worth a look into as one of the melee style strikes and play styles you can do this league. I've yet to do any proper big stuff like T17s and Ubers, but I will be trying that today, and I do think I have the potential to walk into some Ubers as well, because it seems like it's a decent enough playstyle and decent enough DPS for that. So hopefully some good things happen there. The only real issue is, yeah, Molten Strike does have the slight delay for your molten balls to actually, you know, hit the ground, so you might get into trouble with some large packs or big damaging monsters and stuff, since you will quite often have them having the first hit before you, but that's where building a bit more thick comes into it. So I do have Fortify, I do have a lot of evasion, do have Ghost Shrouds, I got good leech. I'm not uber thick, nothing compared to my previous character, but I can take some hits and I can do some living here or there. So yeah, all in all, pretty fun skill, pretty decent character. I do think I built it wrong, but all the same, I do want to go ahead and show you how I built it, and then yeah, tell you about the alternatives if you would so want to do some of the alternatives. So here's the character, T17 Bad, pretty self-explanatory. Level 92 Trickster, about to hit 93. Probably going to push it to like 94, 95 to finish off a few passives and, you know, do a bit more end game and stuff. As mentioned, I am built around Shroud of the Lightless and kind of a Fizz style axe. This is the result of my graveyard craft that, you know, I did kind of haphazardly, and it did most of what I wanted to do. So obviously it would have liked a couple of Fizz rolls instead of a leech roll, but either lost a dice roll or, you know, didn't have enough scarcer lives or something. I don't engage with the graveyard thing too often because you go buy corpses to do it too often, and I just do what I can when I can. But yeah, it's something like 760 PDPS, and at best you can do like 1100. So it's you know, decent, but it's not massive. So by all means, if you had a much bigger Fizz weapon, it'd be okay. But I think an Ellie variant is still going to be easier to build. And one of the things about the skill is that you do want a pretty fast weapon. So that's why I went with a Despot Axe, because it does start out with an 80% base, and that makes you feel pretty slow on the character unless you start stacking a lot of attack speed. And ideally, you know, a bit of a faster weapon base as well. So given that you are, you know, a two-hand base and every fifth attack is with the one that really matters, you want a bunch of attack speed to get to that fifth attack, and also to just feel better about your character in general. You know, leap slamming around and freaking actually attacking with an 80% attack speed skill. So that's what it looks like. By default, 3 proj, the 5th attack fires 5, and then does a fuck ton of damage. And yeah, so we're using currently Inspiration, Trinity, Returning Proj, Slower Proj, early damage with attacks, Slower Proj is just single target, so I'm otherwise doing GMP, and then otherwise also mapping with Ancestral Call. So those are my single target swaps. The idea for Slower Proj is the less projectile speed you have, the closer the balls will be to the center of your hitbox, and then all of the overlaps will happen a lot better, especially on the return proj as well. Molten Strike, and especially this one, would, you know, be hugely beneficial from Nimmies. Very expensive item right now, so do with that information what you will, but otherwise return proj does a pretty good job of boosting performance as well. So I'm built around abyssal sockets. We've got 4 penetration per abyssal socket affecting us, and some life and mana. Using the new hat for 4 abyssal sockets does nothing else for us. No one cares. And then, like I said, most of my jewels are trying to stack 4% Fizz as extra fire, and then some maybe attack speed, life, accuracy, stuff like that. You would otherwise, if you're doing like an Ellie weapon and want to do abyssal still, you would otherwise do attack speed, life, and then flat Ellie damage. But yeah, this was kind of what I tried to do. And with the way all the gear is set up, you need to like get some resists somewhere. It's pretty tough to do. We do have 1 blue abyssal just for the sake of the boots, so that helps with reservation. Helps with movement speed. And the unique tool that we're using is Tech Rods, which actually gives us a lot of extra crit for our main hand, because our 2-hander counts as a main hand, so we get a lot of extra crit for that one. And yeah, that's what all those sockets kind of look like. They're nothing too insane, but they do help out with our attack speed, and then the Fizz extra fire. Like I said, if you're just pure Ellie, I think it's going to outperform this whole Fizz's fire bullshit. It was something I thought maybe would be good, and it's okay, but it's not as good as I was hoping it would be by comparison. So I've got it to a point where I'm pretty happy with it, but then looking at the comparison, I'm like, wow, that probably would have been better. Especially with Rakiatas, like very easy to put together with a Rakiatas. Just grab the weapon, don't have to do any abyssal bullshit, use like a Wrath Aura, some extra flat Ellie somewhere, and you'll most likely have a more well-built character. So yeah, Harvest crafted that harvest crafted that with some graveyard to begin with, and harvest crafted that. Still actually have to finish this one off with a multi-mod, so I'm going to put damage while leeching on this thing as well, because, yeah, we're always leeching, given that we are a Trickster. So Trickster, always leeching, and otherwise I'm doing like Polymath, which I think I have like 12 masteries or so, and yeah, pretty good stuff for the more damage. Frenzies, which we generate through the Frenzy Mastery for Mark Mastery over here, and also had to fix my Cold Res with a few tattoos for Cold Res. These are all ones I just found throughout the game thus far, and yeah, that's what the passive tree looks like. We do have a Lethal Pride that gives some double damage here. Very, you know, competitive slot for double damage around here. What do we get? Damn. Dude, global chat is popping off right now. Yeah, very competitive slot for double damage because a lot of bow users use this slot with Lethal Prides. So I tried to make sure I got some other use out of it. So Fire Res, double damage, Fizz damage, Fire Res, and also double damage. And then also have a large cluster that does some stuff. So we got Feed the Fury, Martial Prowess, Fuel the Fight if I want it for 2 points. Not sure if I will go that route. And then also Secrets of Suffering, because most of my damage is cold and fire. And yeah, neither of those are particularly good for ailments, but then we turn them into Scorch and Brittle, and it helps me cap my crit and also gives a bunch of elite pen. Once again, stuff like that wouldn't be relevant if you're Rakiatas, so that would be pretty easy. We then have these axe nodes that help give me rage. So with this rage here, I do also with the gloves generate 2 rage per actual melee hit, and that does get me to 50 rage pretty eventually while just playing the game, and then that also lets me use Berserk sometimes. Also using Tomb Fist for Fortify, which does seem to proc pretty often and keep me fairly fortified up most of the time. But yeah, you could do the gloves that I used on the Glacial Hammer build for more Fortify and good Fortify generation. Probably how I would build it, yeah. Gloves like that, Rakiatas, flat alley everywhere. Probably a better way of building. You could even do like Champion Perseverance. You could do Raiders. You could do Berserkers. Just, yeah. Keep your options open, and Molten Striker Zenith is pretty fucking crazy, I think. If you want to get into it, it's well worth doing. One of the better, more powerful strikes and Transfigured Gems to come out of the whole Transfigured Gem situation. Then just got, yep, a few auras and stuff, and it's very tight on socket pressure when you're doing this type of abyssal stacking, so that's something you have to keep in mind as well. And I think that's probably all that needs to be said. Yeah. Just make sure you're keeping up your attack speed, because until you get good attack speed, it doesn't feel particularly good to be playing this type of Molten Strike. But once you get there, it feels a lot better, and it's pretty damn fun. And the MTX, if you want to see that, this is just the default body armor for Shroud of the Lightless. That's what it looks like. And then, of course, a Divergent character effect. Makes most things look pretty damn cool. This is from one of the current supporter packs, I think. This is from an old supporter pack. Ravager weapon, old supporter pack, and then Pyromancer weapon effect, and then, of course, some glowing red eyes. And this setup's a bit bugged. I think when we actually have... you know, the fucking Shroud of the Lightless thing going off will like glitch it up and it looks ridiculous. I don't know. The MTX setup can look a bit bugged. Okay, all the same. Fun character, fun Zenith action. I'll probably still have a video up about T17s and Ubers, provided I try a bunch of that. If I don't try a lot of it, then maybe no video, but we'll see. Thank you very much for it. Thank you very much for watching. See you guys next time.